Yet TV shows have a habit of ending controversially. Whether it was the sudden cut to black in the final episode of The Sopranos, the confusing flashbacks in Lost, or the jarring flash-forward in Gossip Girl, iconic television franchises have failed to stick the landing. Or perhaps they set expectations too high for their viewers. But when discussing controversial endings, Game of Thrones stands out among the rest. Showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss took their time adapting one book per season during the earlier seasons of the franchise. So, it was a surprise when they announced Game of Thrones' ever-expanding narrative would be wrapped up in 2 shorter seasons consisting of 13 episodes total. Game of Thrones suffered fluctuations in quality ever since Season 4. But Season 7 was received as an exception from the storytelling standards HBO typically maintains. As the show steered further away from the source material, characters began to make questionable decisions, and certain storylines were forgotten. Fan-favorite characters like Tyrion, Peter Dinklage, didn't have much to do as the story progressed, and infamous antagonists like Littlefinger, Aidan Gillen, became simplistic, one-note villains. By the final episode of Season 8, Game of Thrones had sparked outrage among critics and fans alike. While it's hard to imagine how the showrunners could have rushed the ending more than they already have, a recent report exposed how a very different Game of Thrones could have ended, a way that would seem to present some quite possibly insurmountable challenges. The alternate ending was a film trilogy. HBO rarely lets a TV series run for more than 7 seasons, but George R.R. Martin pushed for the studio to produce as much as 10 seasons in order to tell the full story of Game of Thrones. Benioff and Weiss' careers skyrocketed after the show's success, which brought in many enticing offers, like their now canceled Star Wars project. When Season 8 rolled around, many audience members felt that the ending felt rushed and failed to tie up numerous storylines, forcing characters to make questionable decisions, such as Daenerys, Emilia Clarke, suddenly burning down King's Landing. In a recent interview with the Wall Street Journal, Benioff and Weiss discussed their original plan to turn the final few seasons into 3 feature-length movies. This Game of Thrones trilogy would have premiered in movie theaters and captured the climactic ending of the series with the resources and production budget of a Hollywood blockbuster. However, the showrunners claimed that network executives wanted to keep Game of Thrones on TV screens, saying that it was called home box office and not away box office. Ironically, Game of Thrones' production budget was not the problem with the series. Every aspect of production improved throughout Game of Thrones' run in the 2010s, except for the writing. Whether it was the costume design, VFX, music, or cinematography, Game of Thrones delivered quality content every season up until the final episode. It was just the story that didn't make sense. Benioff and Weiss' idea to spend even more money on a show that already cost over $15 million per episode was not a solution to any of the problems with the series. Trying to fit the events of Seasons 7 and 8 into 3 movies would have rushed the story even more and likely forced the writers to cut out additional storylines from the show. So, what could the Game of Thrones ending look as a trilogy of movies? We can piece together a rough idea based on the major events of Seasons 7 and 8, though Benioff and Weiss did not get into specifics about how they planned to end the series originally as movies. With Season 7 ending with the battle beyond the wall, where Beric Dondarrion, Richard Dormer, and Jon Snow, Kit Harington, led a small band of warriors to hunt down a white, this could make a natural endpoint for the first movie. With the 2 more major battles, the Battle for Winterfell and the Battle of King's Landing, it's likely the following 2 movies would each have a big battle ending the movie. It's hard to imagine a worse ending to Game of Thrones. But jamming 13 episodes into 3 movies would open the door to it. While AT&T's idea of making Game of Thrones more phone-friendly is, frankly, unpalatable, it's certainly not an unheard-of concept. Ultimately, leadership made the right decision to keep the show on TV screens. Despite disappointments with the ending of the series, HBO's most recent spin-off, House of the Dragon, is more faithful to the source material, with the highly anticipated 2nd season of the prequel series premiering sometime this summer.